Hello, I'm Crackshot. Welcome to another episode of Crackshot Chronicles. Today we're going to discuss handgun training inside the home and dry firing. Now, every firearms instructor will tell you the best way for you to get good at shooting is to practice your trigger pull. Why? Because trigger pull is the leading cause why your gun causes you to miss. Well, the gun doesn't cause you to do it. The problem is, when you dry fire a gun, and dry firing literally means you take an unloaded gun, like this one. See, there's nothing in the chamber and there's no rounds in the magazine. And you sit there and you put a target up on the wall in your house when nobody's around, and the ammo is in another room. All the ammo for the gun is separate, so there's no way you can put a round in the gun. And you aim at a target, right? Aim and fire. And that teaches you the principles of trigger pull. You do it over and over again, just like that, until you get your aim down, your trigger pull down pat. Problem that I have with that, and a lot of people do, like your mama, your daddy, your brothers and sisters and your wives, is that you are pulling a trigger on a gun, on a real gun, something that could go off. Even though you've taken all the safety precautions to keep the ammo away from the area where you're training, it's still kind of spooky to watch somebody be pulling a trigger. But you have to if you want to develop proper trigger pull. So I have a suggestion. I've come across an old gun that had a broken extractor and it had a cracked slide. This is it. This is a real gun. It is the Jennings 9mm. Now it is a 9mm parabellum. It carries, looks like 9 rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber for 10. Now it does everything a real gun can do. Why? Because after all, it's a real gun. I painted it red, removed the extractor. See there? There's no extractor in that little canal that's cut out in the slide. That's where the extractor is. It grabs the bullet and it extracts the bullet out of the chamber when you fire it as it recoils. If it doesn't have an extractor, the bullet in the chamber can't come out. So that's one good thing. I've disengaged the trigger mechanism so that no matter how many times I pull the trigger, there's no click. Listen. See, I'll show it to you this way. So it can't pull the trigger. Also, what I did, if you look down the barrel, it's plugged with a wooden dowel all the way through the entire length of the barrel. So as a result, it is humanly impossible to take a bullet, put it in this magazine, put the magazine inside the gun, and chamber around, right? And this gun acts funny. And pull the trigger. Because even if you can't put a round in the chamber because the chamber's blocked. It won't close the action. So also, you can pull the trigger you want. Even if you did get a round in it, it's not going to go off because the hammer is not able to fire because I've disengaged the gun. This is a good training gun. I call it a red gun. Not only because it's red, but because most trainers consider a red gun as a training tool, not an actual firearm capable of firing ammunition. Some companies have made blue guns, and they do it for the same thing. That way they can safely point guns at each other, real guns at each other. They have all the working parts, but it won't go bang. This is the best thing you can do. If you have an older gun. Now in my case, I came across this gun from a good friend of mine, Robert, and Robert handed me this gun for repairs. Well, it turns out the repairs are almost equal to in cost as purchasing the whole gun altogether. So we thought about it. If you can't fix it because it's cheaper to buy another one, and it's a cheap gun, it's not going to last very long, it's going to break and snap. I wouldn't trust my life to this gun anyway. What can I do with it? Well, I could have sold it to somebody and let it become their problem. So it blows up in their face and I ain't going to worry about it. Wrong. You'll get sued because somebody's going to find a way to find who sold the defective gun, and you're going to get sued. It's called product liability. So I use it as a trainer. Now whenever I have somebody who doesn't know anything about guns, I let them play around with this so they can point this at everybody and do all the stuff and muzzle sweep and everything, and guess what? Nobody gets shot because it's not capable of getting shot. I can break all their bad habits with this before I move on to a real gun like this one. Now you say, well, I don't have a couple of $100 to buy a gun just to turn it into a trainer. You know, okay then. Get a toy. Look at that. This is a toy. This is not a real gun. It is spring. You can see the spring. It is spring actuated. It is an airsoft gun and not a very expensive one. I think I paid $19.99 at Walmart once upon. It was on sale. It was on clearance, so I bought it. This is a replica of a 1911. I own one similar to it. Looks exactly like it. Guess what? I press the magazine release, right? It has a magazine. I can put BBs. This shoots little pellets. But I don't have to use the pellets. I can use this empty with no pellets. Stick it in the magazine well, right? There you go. Pull the slide to the rear. See? There you go. Chambers around. The hammer is cocked. I pull the trigger. Gun goes bang. Guess what? I can do this, and I don't have to worry about killing somebody in my house. So now I can take this gun and I can practice the principles of dry firing without being worried about shooting somebody. Like the trash can or the TV set. If I do shoot the trash can or the TV set, guess what? It's with an airsoft pellet. An airsoft pellet is designed to shoot at people for training purposes. Well, if you shoot them, it's going to leave a mark. But it's not going to kill him. There's going to be no trips to the emergency room. The only thing you're going to get is a butt whooping from the guy you shot, because or the girl you shot, especially if it's your mama or daddy or your brother or your sister, or if it's my wife, you shoot her in the gluteus maximus. Oh yeah, oh hell broke loose then. So you know not to shoot, but at least you know if you shoot somebody with a toy, you're not going to go to prison for manslaughter. So what I recommend, go get yourself a toy gun. One that has all the functional parts just like this one, and you can sit there and pull the trigger to your heart's content all day long, and you don't have to worry about accidentally shooting somebody. Now you say, well, that's not really an effective training tool. Yes, it is. The human brain is easily tricked. How many times have you taken your glasses and had them up here on your head and go walking around and say, honey, have you seen my eyeglasses? Of course, nobody sees it. They look at you and tell you, did you check the bathroom? So you go to the bathroom and you realize you are a fool. You got your glasses on top of your head. How did that happen? Because your brain's playing tricks on you. Well, if your brain's dumb enough to play tricks on you, it's dumb enough to be fooled by you. So you get yourself a toy gun and you go like this and you practice your aim and you nice and steady squeeze and you aim and oh, I did it and I didn't disturb the relationship between my sights and the targets. That's a good trigger pull. I go like this and I go, oh, squeeze, oh, and I jerked it at the last minute. Well, I just knew I screwed up. Here's another thing you can do. Take a coin, a penny, a quarter, a nickel, whatever you want. You take your, my gun's malfunctioning. Look at that. It's stuck on stupid. Now it's firing the spring, not the hammer, without me actually doing it. My wife said I needed to get on them. Bottom line, it's okay. The hammer still falls. So you take a penny, a nickel, a quarter, and you balance it on the end of your muzzle. Now you go out there and you aim with this coin on the end of it. If you pull the trigger, right, and it drops, you know you jerk the trigger. If you pull the trigger and the gun does not drop the coin, that coin is still hanging on that barrel, then you know you have pulled the trigger successfully without disturbing the relationship between the sights and the target. This is the safest way to train. With this, you could train from the draw, from your holster. If you get a gun that's identical in size and shape to your carry gun. Now, it's not going to make the recoil because you're not shooting a real gun. It's not going to weigh the same, but it's going to give you the mechanics in your hands and the muscle memory to be able to draw the gun from holster, get into a good shooting stand, pull the trigger, and go through all the motions. And it's a lot cheaper than going to the actual gun range. Once you've practiced it thoroughly and you can draw really, really fast from the holster and you can aim real good and you got that trigger memory down pat, now you could go to the gun range and use a real gun. So, instead of using a real gun and scaring the bejeebers out of everybody who walks into the room, you can use a red gun. Let everyone in the family know this is a red gun, doesn't shoot. So when they see you pointing this gun, doing the John Wayne thing in the mirror, because you have to use the mirror, because when you use the mirror, you can see where your flaws are in your draw. And you fix them in there so that when you go to the real world, somebody attacks you for real, you pull it out just like you practice in the mirror, you default to your default memory. Let me say that right. You fall back to your default training. If you don't train at all, there is no default training to fall back on. And when you get attacked, your brain goes shutdown mode. I'm scared. I just want to run, fight, or hide. It doesn't. It's trying to decide which one to do that. While your brain's thinking all that, if you decide I'm going to fight, you draw your gun. You're like, well, how exactly do I pull the gun out of the holster? I don't remember. Well, guess what? Because you were playing around with either a toy gun or you're playing around with one of these. Well, my wife says I'm playing, but I call it training. When you train with either a red gun or a toy gun that's similar in shape and size to your actual real defensive gun, your muscle memory will remember it. And once it gets embedded in the memory, which takes about 1,000 times of pulling the trigger to develop it into muscle memory. Once that happens, guess what? You are better off. If you like this video, please click on that like button. Please also click on the subscribe button. That way you can get more videos like this. And please leave a comment. Any kind of videos you want me to make about, talk about, any suggestions, feel free to leave them. I appreciate them all. Thank you for watching Crackshot Chronicles. Have a great day.